Hey, Sam, can you hear me okay?
Darren, good to see you again. How are you?
Find yourself there.
Awesome. Look at that sweet art collection you have.
You say art collection, I say 8x10s that I hoarded that my wife let me put up, whichever you want to
So
say.
what with that big line of 8x10s on the right, like on I guess your left upper shoulder, what are those?
When you used to do an interview with somebody or you were reviewing an album or something like that, they would
Hmm.
send you the photo of the person because, hey, there wasn't JPEGs and
Yeah.
GIFs and all that. So here you go. I never threw them out. So I had hundreds and hundreds of those. And when we were moving, my wife said, "Why don't we put them on the wall?" Like, no. And she was willing to do it. And
Yeah.
there's David Lee Roth and Little Richard and all that weird stuff there.
And you got to interview every single one of them?
Unfortunately, I'm about half on
Yeah.
there. Wayne Newton's in the top rack. There's a 50% chance that's happening. You got to get your legends while you still can.
Right, right. That's fantastic. Good, 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 good. Well, thanks for making time to chat today.
Thanks for doing this. I've been familiar with your brand since before I was of legal drinking age, allegedly.
All
And
right.
it's great to see that it's growing and growing and growing. But going back to the roots of the brand, I grew up a huge fan of the state. And the fact that
Those are
you
my
knew
old roommates.
Joe and Ken like that,
Yeah.
when you started doing the home batch brewing in the mid 90s, craft
Yep.
brewing was not normal. It was not conventional. Did they
Right.
think you were the weirdest guy on the planet for wanting to do that?
Yeah, we were all living together in or no, we were on 26th and 7th Ave. And when I say all, it was Ken Marino and this other dude who was not in the state were my roommates, but we had for a third floor walk up and it was huge for that era. And Chelsea was not cool back then.
Right.
And so that's where the Joe Latruglio and Tom Lennon and all those guys, Carrie, they would come and practice there and then we'd drink. And then I started home brewing. So the first time I ever did a batch of homebrew, they were all there. And they were actually like, holy shit, Sam, this is good. You should do this for a living. And so they were actually the ones that really inspired me. And we can't find the video, but they stole an MTV van and all the AV equipment from MTV and came down here, helped me paint the inside of the brewery 2 weeks before we opened, and shot like videos for the local TV channel with me. And I have the tape somewhere, but I'd love to find those videos of those guys in the ads, 26 years ago.
Wow. And since then, for anybody that's reading or hearing or anything like this, not everybody realizes that members of the comedy troupe, The State, have written some of the biggest movies ever, appeared in stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So you were in on the ground floor of all that. But
Yeah.
around what year did you find craft beer to be something that was sustainable, that was going to be okay, that was going to be kind of a career?
I would say, we opened in 1995, and we were literally the smallest commercial brewery in America when we opened, making 12-gallon batches in a converted home brewing setup in the corner of the restaurant. And Mariah and I, my wife and I, were not sure if we are going to go out of business or not for about 4 years straight.
Wow.
So we were open 2 years, and we were only open 2 years when we built a bigger brewing system and started bottling, distributing, but we still were not financially strong. And then and we used to get made fun of, when we'd go to beer festivals in the late 90s and people were like, why'd you put apricots in an IPA? Why'd you put coffee in a stout? That's disrespectful to brewing traditions. So
Yeah.
it was around 99 or 2000 that we had like articles come out in Food and Wine and People magazine and trade publications where people started standing up for us and saying, actually, what Dogfish Head's doing is really creative and harkens back to the pre-industrial era of brewing when different cultures around the world used different ingredients in beer. And so right at that moment where we got accolades, especially for Midas Touch and 90 Minute, the original continually hopped IPA.
Yeah.
Well, it's really the first imperial IPA in the world. Those two things, Midas Touch and 90 Minute, came out like the same month, and that was like 99 or 2000, and that's when our trajectory really started going like this, and we were like finally started being able to put some money in the bank and be confident we weren't going to go out of business.
Yeah. 25, 26 years at this point.
Yeah, we're 26 years young.
Wow. Well, one of the things I dig about what you and your team do is you keep it traditional, but you're also not afraid to expand with some more experimental and new drinks on the market. We have this great lemon drink, we have the seltzer. So you're staying old and new at the same time. Is it the same people that oversee Lemon Quest and the seltzer as the original beers?
Yeah, so I got to give props to when I still, my favorite part of my work is the same today as it was when I opened Dogfish 26 years ago, which is coming up with a new idea for a beer. Usually I try to earn my beer calories every day by either going for an hour bike ride or an hour paddleboard.
Yeah.
And the awesomeness of living in coastal Delaware is the harbor doesn't freeze, and the bike paths don't freeze, so you can do that stuff year round. And during that hour, I got my phone with me, and that's when I try to just think of ideas for beers. The night before, I try to read a lot, like in the culinary, music, arts world, and then let that marinate overnight. Get up to have my coffee, go for a bike ride or paddle, and think about what can I do in the beer industry or the beverage industry that hasn't been done before. And then I take that idea and share it with either Mark Safrick, our brewmaster in Milton, or Brian Selders, our brewmaster in Rehoboth, and away we go. They're better technical brewers than I am, but I really love the creative side and storytelling side and recipe ingredient. First kind of pass at an idea, and then they help me make them go from works of fiction in my mind to works of nonfiction. And I came up with the idea of Lemon Quest, which is really based on the DNA of Sea Quench Ale, although it's a non-alc kind of a kissing cousin of Sea Quench Ale. But I also, worked with that same group on our new canned cocktail recipes.
Yeah.
And our Hazy O, which is our oat milk infused hazy IPA. So yeah, it's the same group, and I still love that part of the work.
Well, you just used a bunch of buzzwords that all connect to the next thing that I do.
Okay.
I want to know about. And I'm going to say from about 1990 to, well, basically all people talked about with Delaware before Joe Biden being president, et cetera, was the Wayne's World scene of, hi, I'm in Delaware. I'm a little less ignorant about our states. But being a real music nerd, so many of my favorite bands are Delaware-based corporations. Kiss, for example, is a Delaware-based corporation. A lot
you must be getting psyched for the documentary that's about to come up about Kiss.
Exactly, the two-parter on A&E. So a lot of bands that I really love are Delaware-based entities, but obviously they're not spending too much time in Delaware. So what brought you to Delaware? Now, I know the Firefly Festival is wonderful. I was there a couple years ago. I got to interview Terry Crews at it, but I got to interview Terry Crews at the Firefly Festival. But you, Delaware, how did that happen?
So that's the love of a good woman brought me here to my home state. Now my home state. So I was born in New York City, but really grew up in Western Massachusetts, out on the Vermont border. And there was a high school out there in Western Mass that had both day students from the town, but it had some boarding students in dorms on the campus too. So I was a day student. My wife, Mariah, was a boarding student. She was from 15 minutes from where I'm sitting here in coastal Delaware. That's where she grew up. And so we went to different colleges, but we kept dating. And in our summers of our college years, we would rent houses down here in the beach towns of Delaware. There's only 4. We have a very short coastline. And that's how I got to fall in love with coastal Delaware. And when I was 24 years old and writing the business plan for Dogfish, by the time I got my shit together and raised the $220,000 that it took to open the brewery, I originally wanted to open the brewery somewhere in New England because that's where I was from. But by the time I raised the money, all the states in New England already had small breweries. Right. So the closest state that didn't have a commercial brewery post-prohibition to New England at that era happened to be Delaware, the state my wife was from. So that was the strategy, if you'll say, of why Dogfish opened in coastal Delaware. And in hindsight, I couldn't be more happy that it happened, right? Because where I'm talking to you now, looking 2 miles down this canal, is Joe Biden's summer home in Rehoboth. And where I'm sitting is 2 hours drive from DC, Baltimore, Philly, 3.5 hours drive from Manhattan. So I get to live at the beach, wear flip-flops and shorts to work, but in a short little train or car trip, I can access all these major cities on the East Coast that were really responsible as the hubs volumetrically for growing our brand, but also as great media outlets to particularly New York to create a national buzz for a very small company in coastal Delaware. We were really perfectly situated to access that kind of stuff.
Wow. So if I'm hearing you correctly, there seems to be a recurring theme of messing up and refining it until you're successful.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what life's all about? Humans are like the only animals that can't take care of themselves until they're a couple of years old because of our big fat brains and our big fat heads. So it's like messing up and then figuring shit out as you go is kind of the existential approach to being human. So that's definitely been our approach, and we're definitely, we're very proud that we've grown into a top 20 American craft brand. But I don't know how to brew on our big systems. There's much better technical brewers. I know how to brew on our 50-gallon, 100-gallon, 200-gallon R&D systems. And so at the same moment that the recipes we started on those tiny R&D systems are now being made day in, day out by much better technical brewers than me at our company, I still get to go in and throw the Jackson Pollock, shit at the wall on the small R&D system. So and with no pressure on those experiments to say, oh, this needs to be the next 60-minute. It's just, we need to, try this idea that's never been done commercially before, and hopefully people dig it. And if not, let's learn from it, reflect on it, and let that creative process inform the next one that might be the next 60-minute or sequence ale.
That's a very artistic approach to making beer that I don't think the average person would have thought about. There was math in what you just said, but also art. So
yes, alchemy and science.
Exactly. So we talked about the Lemon Quest drink. We talked about the canned cocktails. In general, should we be, I'm not asking for any secrets to be revealed, but more to come? This is not the last finalized product lineup ever from Dogfish Head?
No, and we're going to keep letting our freak flag fly in whatever direction and keep putting the where in Delaware. But we have announced that within weeks we're going to be opening our newest location, Dogfish Miami.
Wow.
And we really do treat this more as an art project than as a traditional business. And so we're excited that our Miami location is located in the Wynwood Arts District of Miami. So there's going to be some announcements coming in the next week or two about Dogfish Miami. So that's an example, to your point, of we're going to continue to really be super experimental and use the year-round bounty of unique, interesting tropical fruits from Florida to ideate on new recipes from there that could someday be national recipes as well.
Well, 3 quick questions, and then you are a free man, and you can maybe start your weekend. I have a feeling in Delaware, kind of like here in this beach town, Long Beach, Long Island, you might have started your weekend a little early. But
I'm actually doing a Zoom happy hour with our distributors from the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida after I'm on the phone with you. So I'm drinking Sequench with you because we're going to talk about Sequench. But I'm sorry, Lemon Quest. And then I'm going to drink, a bunch of beers and canned cocktails with them. So
it never ends for Sam. Okay.
Yeah, it's tough life, but I'll take it.
Okay, well, the first question is, being such a music-oriented person, I know that early on you had a Johnny Cash-inspired art design to what you did. Do you have a favorite band or a top 3 of bands that you could share?
Probably I would say, it's for me, the fact that I get to, dovetail my creative journey with a bunch of folks that have inspired me. So even though, I love, let's see, this morning I listened to the Cocteau Twins on my paddleboard ride, and I never got to meet them. But right before you texted me, I got this photo of dragon fruit, Wayne Coyne,
from the Flaming Lips. Yeah.
He just texted me that to remind me of the beer we brewed together called Dragons and Yum Yums. So I would say I'm closest still and most inspired by those I'm in touch with, which would be Wayne Coyne, Will Oldham, who records as Bonnie Prince Billy's a great friend, Bill Callahan, who used to record as Smog, but now records under his own name, inspires the heck out of me. Electronica, a woman artist named Juliana Barwick. Check her out. She's someone I'm close friends with and inspires me as an artist. So I'd say, and Dan the Automator from Deltron 3030.
Yeah.
So the folks that I got to meet and hang out with, David Lemieux, who's actually the curator for the Grateful Dead, their archivist, is a friend, and we've gotten to do projects with the Grateful Dead. So it's mostly the ones that I'm actually in touch with, you know, because that's more personal and meaningful. But music-wise, I just love, you know, all genres, and that's a big part of my creative journey, is listening to music and then thinking about how do I apply what I'm listening to beer.
Cool. Next question. Favorite TV show of the moment that you can recommend to somebody who needs a new show to start?
Oh, I don't know if it's of the moment. You know, Queen's Gambit's gotten a lot of love, and we love that. We loved Yellowstone as kind of like a guilty pleasure, cowboys and Indians, and both are evil type thing. We're watching Ozark. It's pretty dark, but Justin Bateman's genius in it, and our high school, Laura Linney, went to our high school, so we're rooting for her. It's cool seeing her going off. So those would be some we've been watching recently. You know, I'm more of a reader than a TV person, but
lots of books behind you.
Oh yeah. Here's one I'll recommend to your readers. A book called Opal and Nev that just came out, a work of fiction about a fictional musical duo, a black woman from Detroit and like a white folkie from London, who come together sort of in the late 60s, early 70s and start the successful band. So a great beach read called Opal and Nev was my recommendation.
Cool. And my closing question is usually any last words for the kids. And I don't know if legalities prevent you from recommending things for the kids, but
however you define kids, I will. So I'll do a little dive. I'll go off on a monologue about Lemon Quest,
sure,
which is it's a non-alc that should appeal to people of all ages, but it's basically we modeled the design of it after. We made like a mood board of 1970s and 1980s regional sodas that never made it, that disappeared. And we took the design cues so that the idea is everyone that drinks this should feel young when they drink it. So regardless of your age, and it's made with sea salts, it's made with acai berry, it's made with blueberries, it's made with lemon. So yeah, our Lemon Quest, not only is it a delicious non-alc, but if you add a nice shot of tequila as a floater to it, it's fucking fantastic. So I recommend trying it on the days you're not drinking alcohol, but then adding tequila to it on the days you are drinking alcohol.
And I do see a little Shasta in the can design. So.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment.
Paltrocast.